Taxpayers are pouring billions more into New Jersey's system that cares for adults with autism and other developmental disabilities. But a new investigation raises serious questions about where that money is really going. An analysis by NJ Advance Media found as the funding surged, so did the salaries of executives at some of the state's largest group home operators, even as families reported staffing shortages and frontline workers making just over $20 an hour. Reporter Sue Livio analyzed years of tax records and state data to find out just who is benefiting and what's being done about it. She joins me now. Sue, it is, as always, great to talk to you, and I know that you're joining us today from Trenton, so thank you for that. Great reporting. I want to ask you first, how dramatic are these increases in salaries? What did you find? What stood out to you?
I wanted to examine the top 10 largest salaries and executive compensation packages for group home providers in New Jersey. What I found was that 2 of the 10 were private equity, and you can't find that information in tax records or anything public. So we don't know. And frankly, since 2018, there's been an explosion of for-profit and private equity owners in this space. And so of the information that I could find through the IRS, the 990 forms that nonprofits are required to report, I found some executives received nearly triple their pay. They tripled their pay from 2018 to 2023, the most recent information possible that was available, and there were 70% increases, 30% increases. There was one CEO that had a decline, but the standard was really far and away what you would expect in most private sector operations.
And why do you say that? I mean, how does New Jersey stack up compared to other states? Did you look at that data as well?
I looked at New York. You know, some of the headhunters I spoke with said that New York and New Jersey are comparable. And, you know, it's the entire state of New York, not just the city itself. And New Jersey's CEOs were making, again, far and away more and they had, in New York, they had larger operations that they were managing. So it was really stunning. This was brought to my attention by the Murphy administration themselves. Human Service Commissioner Sarah Edelman raised this point as they've been working on bills to reform the system. They wanted to include this executive pay examination. And when you dig in, you see that the system has exploded. It went from like $1 billion system to a $3.7 billion system, which frankly, you would think is good, right? People with developmental disabilities need a lot of support, lifelong support. But we see a lot of the money, or certainly surprising sums, going to executive compensation, as well as sort of soft services like navigators, you know, people who help families get services, not the hard services themselves. So it was interesting, juxtaposed to hearing from families who can't get basic services for their loved ones. I spoke to one sister one woman whose sister couldn't get help on a regular basis to get to the toilet. Sometimes she would be waiting for an hour or more. Another parent talked about how her son with autism needed help. He started to speak less, and she asked for speech therapy and was denied, or has been denied at this point. That may change.
I mean, yeah, you bring up a number of issues there, because maybe the salaries on their face aren't a bad thing if the patient care outcome is also keeping pace with that. Do we have any evidence, Sue, to show that as the salaries increased, that patient care also improved? I mean, you're talking about obviously shortages of resources. Were these places better staffed? Were the staff better paid? Any evidence of that?
So during the period, I examined the period during the Murphy administration from 2018 to the present. And what's happened for people who do the hard work, the frontline workers, I found that their pay went up because the minimum wage went up. So they were making $12, $13 an hour. Now they're making $20, $21 on average, which is great, right? But so has the minimum wage for retail workers. And frankly, the burden on people who work in group homes, I mean, it's truly a labor of love.
It's a tough job.
They're
Yeah.
toileting and bathing, it's quite different. So you have increase in pay, but it's a big problem with retaining these workers. Meanwhile, you have, executive compensation really soaring during this time of growth.
What is the state, or at least the Human Services Commissioner, proposing to do about this? You say she brought it to your attention. It's something that I know. Paul Aronson, the ombudsman, has brought up in every single one of his annual reports since he was appointed by the Murphy administration. And it's only now that it seems we're seeing them want to do something about it.
So what happened was there was a bill introduced by Senator Joe Vitale, head of the Senate Human Services Committee, who, along with Commissioner Edelman, has a package of bills that were, they were introduced 2024, and it's taken this long to, there was a big pushback that they delayed a hearing on the compensation bill. The legislative session is about to end next week, so Joe Vitale has pledged that this bill would be reintroduced and this would be something on the agenda for the next administration. Sarah Edelman will be leaving later this month. So I think what you have is a real concern, given the federal Medicaid cuts that are coming down from the federal government. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny about how New Jersey is spending its Medicaid dollars from the federal government. And this is probably an area that you'll see a lot of attention paid.
Yeah, we've heard the governor-elect talk about transparency, accountability being her top priority. We will see. Sue Livio, excellent reporting. Thank you for coming on to share it with us.
Thanks for having me.